Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Morales. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about the ups and downs in dating and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Jaymes Buckman. He's a neurodivergent glam rocker, singer, and a poet, excuse me, with a bit of dabbling in acting. James, how are you, sir?
Pretty well, pretty well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for doing this. So, James, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get here to today? What was it? What was your journey like? You know, you're a glam rock singer, a poet. You done some acting. So, what was that journey like for you?
Honestly, two things I've always had a fondness for were performing and writing. And when I was like a kid, I didn't really know exactly what sort of performance I should do. I tried, I like experimented with a bunch of stuff, but I had like a fairly early interest in poetry and songwriting. So I started as a poet, and eventually I came to a point where I realized that, well, I realized two things. First, I really just like enjoyed performing, and the performative aspect of poetry isn't really something that's emphasized. So like getting on stage with an electric guitar behind me gave me a charge that I didn't really get from uh, getting on stage and reciting poetry. Like I mean, some poetry slams actually have like rules against how much gesticulation you're allowed to do, which is
Yeah.
insane and really does not jibe with the way I uh, express myself. Um, Furthermore, while it is only the incredibly lucky few musicians who can really make um, a solid living from it. The incredibly lucky few poets at that level still need a second job. So, there's that too, right? If I'm going to dedicate my life to an almost impossible dream, it's a bonus to have one that has a potential payout at the end, right?
Yeah, you hope so, right? So James, did you have and today's topic is about dating ups and downs and things like that. So James, did you have any inspiration when you were growing up, or were there past rockers that you liked or you heard about? Maybe you didn't get to see them obviously when you were younger, but any inspiration that you had growing up?
Um, I tend to be like pretty self-inspired as far as like the active creation goes. I kind of just take what's in my soul and just project it. But I will say this. When I was first starting out and deciding if I could really transition from poet to singer, um, I didn't have any sort of natural voice. In fact, when I was starting out in music with some friends who had bands and liked my lyrics, uh, they they specifically didn't like my singing. They liked the fact that I could write, the lyrics for the songs and stuff, and so we got along on that level. But they said, listen, you cannot sing. You have a drum kit. You're not a great drummer, but you can keep a beat. So you drum, write the lyrics, and we'll be good. But those guys are more hobbyists. They didn't really have much interest in the writing songs and getting shows. So they were great musicians, but not great at being in a band.
Right.
So I thought I need to start my own band, but I'm not like I can't audition as a drummer because I'm not a good drummer, and I'm not a good singer either. But I love singing, and no one's around to tell me not to sing anymore. So I'm just gonna do that. And through sheer stubbornness, I actually developed my voice. And eventually I saw vocal coaching, and I'm still not, like an opera style virtuoso or anything, but I developed a really good and more importantly, distinct rock and roll voice.
Yeah, so I know on your website you have definitely a catalog of your songs, so I'll definitely put that on the show notes. So fast forward, you became a singer, you got your own band. How did the dating aspect come into play once you became Jaymes Buckman, poet, glam rocker?
Honestly, uh, over time, I've learned a few lessons in uh, forming a band and in dating, and they're very transferable. One of the biggest ones is like there are times when like I've like, recruited a new band member or whatever, because I'm looking to fill a spot, or and the person I'm recruiting seems to have some qualities that would make them a good part of the band. And then I the uh the initial hint of optimism fades over time, and I realize, oh yeah, no, I was not, we don't quite see things along the same lines. There is actually some incompatibility here that I would have noticed if my eyes had been more fully open. And I shouldn't waste time with people who aren't like fully in it. And I think that really applies to dating too. Like uh you can sometimes, or at least I can sometimes, inadvertently blind myself to fairly obvious points of incompatibility
Right.
because I'm just in a bit of a rush to do the thing. That is one of my foibles. I do tend to like to just go fast into everything I'm pursuing, right? Uh, I need to like train myself to slow down and realize when I'm sacrificing uh, long term uh, like aptitude for like just getting something in place immediately, right?
Right, right, right.
Like jamming a square peg into a round hole just because the square peg uh came along before the round peg, right? And I think that sort of lesson is something I've learned in dating and band management. And I still haven't found the right date, but I found that lesson has enabled me to find the perfect band members, and because of that, I have the strongest possible roster a band could have.
Oh, okay. No, it's funny, James, because you mentioned, you were going fast, but then you realized that you have to slow down a little bit more to, I guess, especially when it comes to certain dating aspects of your life. Did you have time to date though, while you're, perfecting your sound, getting new band members, writing your songs? How did you get? How did you find time to be dating? Did you have the time?
Well, part of it is the fact that the band is sort of like my main job. So, and people's jobs have managed to find time to date. It's just everyone has different schedules. Sometimes it's about finding the right people, with the right schedule. Like that, some relationships have uh dissolved or never even begun because the schedules are incompatible. But there are always ways to make it work. So that has not been a terrible drain. In fact, sometimes like I've even had dates at my shows. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, that's yeah, never been a problem. As long as the person kind of likes my sound, it's not a problem. I mean, I want to say that's not a deal breaker. If someone just is not in for the style of music I do, but they like me, then it's all good. Although that's never really come up yet.
With the difference of music taste that they might have to what you do, so you're okay with that, but as long as they like James the person.
Yeah, I think like a couple's interest or a your partner does not necessarily need to mirror all of your interests. As long as you connect on some levels, it's all good.
So going forward, right? Once you got it, again, we talk about your band members. You got that straight. You got your music straight. You worked on your voice. Um, what are some of the issues that you have had with dating that maybe you could change in the future? If my question makes sense. In other words, any past mistakes that you might have made where you weren't available, or you just you were so busy that, I'm not saying you neglected your partner, but you just didn't have um, the time management skills yet. Did my question make any sense at all?
It does make sense, although uh I wouldn't say neglect is really has really been a problem for me. I will say, like, I mean, it depends. There are levels, right? Like some people want a relationship that is extremely codependent, where like you're like always in like perpetual contact,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of room for like personal space, and then works for some people. However, there was actually the longest relationship I've had um, was with someone. We were very similar in a lot of ways, and we got along very well, and we truly did love each other. But eventually, we realized that uh, what we wanted out of relationships um, were two different things. Um, my sort of ideal relationship is, one in which two individuals can come together and share happiness, um, while still being capable of sustaining themselves independently, right?
Right.
Um, she wanted something where two people came together and became like one sort of entity, and that was not something I could support. So like I gave her a lot of my time, I think objectively, but because she had a different uh she had different needs, um she did feel neglected because what I had to offer, like at my best, was just it was not sufficient for what she needed out of a relationship. And that's perfectly valid, but I've realized that there are certain levels of codependency in a relationship that I am not capable of sustaining.
Yeah, you
And
know what?
that's what made me realize that it's not like that you can meet the perfect person, but if your relationship styles don't mesh, then there's nothing to be done.
Okay. So I like what you said before, James, and we're talking with Jaymes Buckman, dating ups and downs. And James just made a good point: is that we do need our space. And James, and some of the relationships I've been with some great women, I needed at least that weekend off. If that made sense, I just give me just a couple of days, let me hang out with my buddies and all that. But I always found that some women are, oh, you prefer them over me. Oh, you don't really care about me. Did you have to go through that at all? Yeah, go ahead. I can see you lighting up.
So I mean, that's funny you mentioned weekends. For me, weekends are when I have the most time.
Yeah.
So I'm like if someone can only see me like a couple times a week, because of their schedule, then like the weekends are the perfect time to enjoy that. And I will say, when I'm in a relationship, like my lover is like the most important person to me, and like I will do everything I can to like prioritize time with them. It is good to have like a partner you can that gets along with your friends too. Like I don't believe in like sectoring off parts of my life. I like the people in various parts of my life to be able to interact with each other. I'm in different social groups, right? And I like it when my friends get along with each other. It's not always the case, but it never goes badly, and sometimes it goes very well. In fact, some of my friends have made new best friends because they've met through me, and I like when that happens, and that thing can happen with the people you're dating too. um, but sorry, what was the question?
No, no,
Um,
no. We were talking about time and everything, and you just said that you like to prioritize time, especially on the
yes.
weekend. Because I said that on occasion I want my weekend off. I got to be honest with you, James, I do, but it's not like every weekend. It's maybe like 1 or 2 week, not even 2 weekends, 1 weekend a month where I could just relax, stay home, watch TV, and bum out. That was the main thing for asking you. How do you navigate through that?
Yeah. Well, so yes, there's that. As I said, I do enjoy spending like a fair bit of time with the people I'm with, and like they are like when I want to like be around people, like the lover is like the person I most want to be around.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that has never been a problem. I mean, occasionally things can come up, like maybe there's a time when I don't know, maybe like I have a show on a Friday and they're off like for a vacation on a Saturday, so like we can't have like a date night to ourselves on that day. But there are always ways to find time, and but the yeah, so that particular thing has never really been um an issue, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think I can always find time for people in my life, and I don't think anyone I've ever dated has felt as though they were less important than someone else.
No, I get that. And it's funny, you have mentioned, I should say funny, but it was funny for me because I sometimes I do separate. If I'm dating someone, I'll definitely maybe introduce her to some of my good friends, but there's some friends I don't want her to meet, not because I'm jealous or anything, but you want her or your partner at the time you love her to, I guess, commingle with your band members, to know them, to know your inner circle. Am I right there? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't force it on anyone, but
Sure.
like I like to keep as much of my life open to the people who are in it. I don't want to
Right.
like segregate aspects of my existence. I will say this though, like I think I'm a pretty extroverted person, but like uh I do like having like a space to be in when I do need like solitude. So like I can't ever really imagine like sharing a room with someone, you know? Like I
Uh,
don't think I'm the sort of person who can actually sleep beside another person. Really. I think at best I could probably be like, I don't know, I think like like I think living in the same house but on different floors, or even like in the same neighborhood as someone works.
yeah.
So you have like, you know, pretty deep, like full access to each other, but you can still go to your separate spaces that are just yours when it's time to be alone. I think that works out for me.
James,
I
I
think that
think I'm a
that's like
hundred.
my threshold.
I think I'm 100% in agreement with you. I don't mind maybe spending a day or two here in my apartment, but then you got your own space, and I like that idea. To be honest with you, um, when you are with a certain lover and you tell them that you do want your space, how do they react? Do they want to stay with you, cuddle with you, go another round or two? How do you separate uh, not offending someone?
So there are only two times when it was been an issue. There was one person who had she had BPD. She was very aware of it,
Yeah,
by borderline personality disorder,
yeah,
and but she didn't manage it. She just like let it just grow rampant. And so like there were many occasions when we'd have our time. We'd allocate our time together, and she knew when I had to go. But she would, throw like tantrums when it was time for me to go. And I would often be like guilted into, staying past what was reasonable. So that was, sort of extenuating circumstance.
yeah.
And the other time I was with someone who uh believed that she could um that we as a couple could gain more from like sleeping in the same bed more often. And we tried it. It didn't go terribly well. I'm not like I've had to struggle to like develop
Yeah.
a healthy sleep uh routine. Like I'm not like for most of my life I would just stay up until like my body just like turned off. And it's not great. And in fact, I realized that it was causing me to have seizures because I had epilepsy. Um, that was triggered by lack of sleep. So I had to really fight to like turn my body into one that could sleep relatively normally. So like disrupting that wasn't great. But we gave it a try. It didn't work out. Anyway, after we broke up, we remained as friends. And she told me after a while that the next guy she dated had made her realize that she actually didn't like sleeping in the same bed with another person either. She just liked having someone there to like tuck her in, which I had offered to do, but at the time she didn't know that that was going to be sufficient. So that was kind of funny.
Right. Wow. Okay. So
And yeah,
yeah, go ahead, James. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was thinking that also happened to be the person I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so you're going through I mean, you definitely have, to me, more ups in dating than downs. I mean, if you're going to put anything down, maybe it's definitely sleeping with a partner on a full-time basis, getting your space, your space that you need. And then whether she's, like you said, if she's a couple of blocks away, a couple of miles away, whatever, it seemed to be working with you. Um, but how do you explain that to a potential new partner? That these are my boundaries. I prefer, hey, we could be together for the whole day, but comes midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna have to put you in a cab. The yeah, I can see you lighting up, James. Go ahead.
I mean, I think I know. I assume that's the sort of thing that like comes up like pretty naturally as you go on.
Okay.
Like I mean I don't know what normal people do because I'm not terribly normal, but I don't think that like uh most people like come up with a list of like all their foibles and then preferences like on day one.
Right.
So I mean, but I don't really hide any aspects of myself. I like people to know what they're in for, as soon as they want to know it. So I really don't hide anything. Um, but yeah, I'd say, but conversely, I don't have uh, a, a huge list of criteria for people to date me. I just basically like, as long as I can get along with someone and they can accept, me and all my weirdness,
Yeah.
then like we have a pretty decent shot, I would say.
Right. So, what are you looking to do more with your music in the next 3 to 6 months? Anything, any appearances you looking to make or gonna make where people could at least try to follow you?
So we just released our second full-length album about a week and a half ago. It's called Tempest Rock. It's by Hot Apollo. It's available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, and anywhere on the internet you listen to music, you will find it. And of course, hotapollo.com has all our links. You can search for or Instagram or social media,
Yeah.
HOTAPOLLO. Look for us anywhere online. We're there. Uh, we just had our album release show, and now we're already back in the studio to start recording. Actually, right after this, I'm racing off to lay down some vocal tracks for the
Cool.
third album. So yeah, no, we're always getting something going. But I would highly encourage anyone to check out our stuff. We even have a few music videos if you want to check those out. Because I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a pretty visual person,
Yeah.
so that will give you that extra dimension, I think, as you
Yeah.
try to
No.
make a live show.
Yeah, I'll definitely put that on the show notes. Talk more about your merchandise. I saw on your website you have some really cool merchandise, Hot Apollo shirts, caps, and all that. So talk more about your merchandise.
Oh yeah, no. So yeah, recently we realized there's a bit of a demand for, again, the visuals, right? A bit of a demand for for things that give a bit of flair to go along with the sounds, right? And so yeah, we have like shirts, tank tops. We recently introduced beanies because it's the winter, and
Yeah.
especially I don't know where you are, but we're in Toronto in
Yeah, I'm in New
Canada,
York City.
which
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it's been a pretty mild winter, and I'm liking it. I'm not a fan of the cold, but
Me too.
sometimes it's like 2 in the morning, you're coming back from the club in January, and your ears are getting a little cold, and stylish beanie with like this Hot Apollo logo
Yeah.
on it. Yeah, it's perfect. So yeah, hot beanies, tank top shirts, like basically whatever you want. We probably have it, and if we don't, honestly, message me and we'll make it for you. We are totally if there's a gap people are seeing in their catalog, yeah, we're totally happy to like uh fill it.
Yeah. How did you come up with the name Hot Apollo? That's a cool name.
So yeah, as I said, I was in a couple of bands in high school that went nowhere. But there was this one I was in, and the person I formed it with was a big fan of the beat poets of the mid 20th century.
Right.
People like Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac and those people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was this line in an Allen Ginsberg poem called "The Shrouded Stranger," and it was about the sort of underground gay orgy scene in in that time and place in America. Because at that time, it was I'm pretty sure it was illegal to be homosexual, and almost everyone with those tendencies had to hide it for the vast majority of their lives, right? You risk, prison, death, social exile, all of that, and is awful. But in these underground, gay clubs, they could finally. It was the one place where they could be completely themselves and really like expose their true natures without the harsh constraints of um, heteronormative society.
Right.
And so it was a poem about expressing the beauty of that feeling for people who so rarely felt it. And there was a line in it called that Hot Apollo was a line in reference to one of the participants in that poem.
Yeah.
And you know, as someone who's both queer and a lifelong fan of mythology, that resonated with me. So when he suggested that name, I said that's perfect. And also, while Apollo wasn't like always like my favorite of the gods, he always had the best name to say. Like there's something
Right.
about the way Apollo sounds in the mouth that just felt good. It has great mouthfeel. So I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, that's an awesome name. And when he left music to pursue mountain climbing and like literature, I think he said, James, I want you to keep the name. It's a perfect name for your band. But just remember, if anyone ever asks, tell them where you got it from. You got it from your friend named Heart Needles. And
Right.
he always said if he started his own band, he didn't need the name Hot Apollo because he would just call it Heart Needles and the Love Darts.
Right.
So that's where I got the name from.
Pretty cool. Very cool. And before I let you go, tell us that website one more time where people can find you.
HotApollo.com has links to a bunch of our stuff. And if you search for Hot Apollo anywhere on the internet, you'll find us. You know, music listening, YouTube, social media, we're there. And you can always reach out to me. The easiest way is probably Instagram, Hot Apollo. But yeah, HOTAPOLLO. Keep it shiny.
Yeah, no, again, I'll definitely put that on the show notes. Well, James, first of all, thank you so much for being on People on Dating and taking time out of your busy schedule. I really, really appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure.
All right, then. Thank you, buddy. Bye-bye.